Hey, welcome back everyone. It's time to finish up this driver's side fender. We've got two repairs left to do. One here and a pretty significant patch down here on the dog leg. Let's get to it. Okay, we'll get started with this repair. This rust, if you recall from the last episode, was created by the inner splash shield that runs the length of this fender, and together with the rubber seal and the undercoating that was applied here created a bit of a moisture pocket, and that's what over the years eventually rotted through right here where the moisture sat. So we're going to tackle this first. We've got one bend here that we need to be mindful of. I think we can avoid anything that's going on here with this fender lip. We'll just need a piece that looks something like that. We're going to get started by tracing this out. We'll get a piece cut, bent, and then we'll do a cut and butt. Let's get to it. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. We need a piece that's going to be no larger than that. I think it can be on a straight angle like this. And we need it to come down to roughly here and somewhere in this area here. I think that can, something like that. We'll just check the underside of the fender, make sure that we don't have any other scaly metal on the inside of that. Now there is some scale here, I'll get you in. Here's the back side of that repair. You can see that we do definitely have some deeper surface rust in this area. I don't think it's deep enough to be overly concerned about. I think we can still maintain a patch that looks something like that, and still have good metal to weld into here. We're going to start with it. If we cut into it and see that it's going to be too thin and too weak, we're going to have to go wider and deal with this. But let's do the first cut and go from there. Okay, so based on what we saw back there, let's go. So we've also got a bend here that we have to be careful of. So it's a bend here, up, and a bend. So I don't think that we need to go below this bend. If we stay up a ½ inch above that, that would be my preference. And then we'll just go a little wider than we had planned. I'm just drawing this out so that, not so much for the cut marks, but really just to plan the size of the piece. Okay. And that's a pretty basic shape to create. Okay, I think this will be good enough. We don't need to worry too much about the shape. We just need to get it close, because we'll do the cut and butt. So we'll do here, line there. And so the cut and butt will give us the shape we need and the spacing that we need for the penetration. I think if we were to do that, that would give us all we need there. So I'm going to cut this out of steel, and we'll get started on the bend that we need. Okay, we got this shape cut out, 18 gauge steel, and that. Should be what we need. I don't think it matters. Well, yeah, that's probably the way that I originally cut it out. That was the angle of the fender lip, so that'd be the way. I'm just going to mark that for my own reference. Okay, so let's get a bend in this, because really that's all it's preventing us now from getting this in here and starting to cut and butt. So we need a line. Now, we don't have to be too fussed on this way or that way. The most important thing right now is to get a line for this bend, which I would say is here. It comes right across like that. It's a little hard to tell on here. What I will do is draw what I think is the line. There, I think that's it. Okay. If I bend that, not much. Bring it back. We should be able to make sure that this fits nice and flush on here with no interference. So let's go and bend this up. All right, go back to my high-tech braking machine. And so we want a bend that way. Again, it's not much of a bend, but I do want to put a little sharpness in it. That might be more bend than we need, but I needed to make sure that I had the sharpness of that bend. So let's go and test fit that quick and see how close we are. Okay, let's test fit this and see how we're doing here. So that's laying up against that bend is about as best I can get it there, and that bend is, I want to say, perfect or close to it. Now let's just move it up to the position. Okay, so what's happening here is I'm getting a gap now over here, and the reason why that's happening, you can see it rocking, because this piece up here of the main panel has a rise in it to support the bend for the fender lip. So what I have to do is just bend this section here upwards to get this to sit flush. We'll do that, and I'll bring you back. Okay, again, so we've got this teetering. It's because of what's happening right here. That, I think, can be done just with my hands, or even just a pair of pliers here just to get a little more precise on it. Don't need much. It's sitting nice back here. It's sitting very close there, I think. I think that's going to give us what we want. Okay, so I think that's our piece. I'm happy with that. Before we tack this, so we're going to tack this to the main panel, and then we'll do our cut and butt. Before we do that, I'm going to clean up these surfaces, and I'm going to take a bit of paint off this section here, only because I want to make sure that I've got the bend lined up perfectly, because this doesn't matter so much to me right now. What matters to me most is that I've got this bend exactly lined up, and to do that, I want to make sure that I've got good visibility of that. So let me get my air sander out, and we'll take a bit of paint off here. Okay, so I think I've got this where it needs to be to make sure that the bend is lined up. So I'm going to start my tacks to get this thing in here. Okay, yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, so we'll start our cut and butt. You'll notice that I tried to cut on an angle there. Not quite 45 degrees, but on an angle. I want gap, but I don't want too much gap in this panel. I don't want to pull things in too much on such a wide panel like this. It can really create a problem with warping canning. So I've got to be careful with that. But that gives me a nice gap, and I can get now a tack here and continue on with my cut and butt. But let's get a tack in right here. think that's pretty good. So now the process that we've got, so it's flush, we've got the bend lined up. Now what we have to do is take our time moving around this piece slowly with um, the air hose, keeping this cool and watching for any problems that we're creating in the panel. We've got to be very careful here because this could draw in different ways and create some real problems for us. So gotta be careful, keep it cool. Um, I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to be slow and tedious, so I won't record it. But just keep in mind, I'll be doing like attack here, attack there, cool it off, attack there, building on my tacks all the way around, 3 maybe at a time, cooling it off. That's going to take me a while. So let's get that done, and then I'll show you what that's done, and then we'll grind it off. And we're likely going to do the same thing on the backside so that we've got 100% penetration and no issues later of any pinholes or rust later. So I'll pick you up in a little bit. Okay, got that welded up. It took a while, but got that done. Panel feels pretty good here and there. I've got a little bump right here. And so once I get this ground down, I've got a little hammer and doweling work to go on right here. It's just a little bit of a hump created by the heat here, and I think the weld pulling it in. So we've got to fix that. Nothing major. Got the back welded up too. See if I can flip this over. The back is welded up too. So both sides, and now we're ready to grind that off. Let me do that and we'll come back. Okay, we got that ground down and use the DA just to get the sander on here with some 80 grit, just so I could help find where there were imperfections. Did a little bit of hammer and doweling. It's like 90%. I would say it's not perfect, but it's very good. Importantly, you can see that I've got the bend lined up nicely. Could be a little smoother right here, but it's very close. I don't think it's worth grinding anymore and dulling. I think, at least for this step, it'll be fine to accept primer the way it is. I mean, of course, it's going to get media blasted first, then epoxy primer, and then we'll work it with our high build and our filler and see if we need any more work there from a metal perspective. But I think it's very close. So now we're going to get set up and get going on this dog leg. Okay, the dog leg. This one's going to be a little trickier, but I don't think it should be too bad. You can see here I started to draw where I think I've got to go up. This area here I think is still fine, but I think it would just be easy just to replace this whole piece. We'll do the one bend down here. We'll do a butt weld here. Nothing wrong with this lip, and I'd like to keep that with that original factory look if I can. We will have to recreate this pinch, and I'll show you that in a second. This flange down here to mount to the cowl or the A-pillar looks fine, so you'll see how I think I might address that. We've got a couple spot welds here we've got to pull out, and that will allow us to pull this piece right off, but we're not going to do that quite yet. Let me show you first the other side here. All right, so what I showed you before was the outer skin, of course. The frame structure that comes from the top of the fender needs work as well. And so essentially this piece here that is outlined in black is going to have to get cut out. That'll be the last piece that we do. We're first going to do the outer skin along with this pinch here, and I'll show you how we're going to do that later on. But I'm going to replace this bracket. This piece I think will be fine. We'll just do a butt weld to that. And that's it. So let's get busy. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to get a pattern of this shape from side to side, managing this curve all the way up. I just want to have that stored away in case I need it for reference later. So I'm going to use this Bristol board. Okay, so I've just got that now as a reference in case I need it. I don't know if I will, but I do. So I know exactly now the width of that fender, and importantly, the way this curve comes out. Okay, first thing we're going to do is make this piece, and we'll get it bent, and we're going to lay it on there and get it just the way we like it. So I want to get a piece a little bigger than I need, so I'm going to go right from the fender lip out to the widest point, which is 13, well actually 12 3/4 or almost 7/8. So I'm going to cut a piece 13 inches long, which is longer than I need because it's going to be cut off here, and will certainly cover the distance of this. And then I need it to be, call that 5 1/8. We're going to go 5 1/2. So I have all of the material that I need. Well, that one's a bit longer, 5 1/4. That's 5. So not a perfectly straight line, but that's fine. So 13 by 5 1/2 will give us a piece that will fit in here. And then we'll place our bend and we'll get that going. I'm going to cut that out and we'll come back. Okay, we've got this piece cut out, 13 by 5 1/2. I've also put a slight bend in it. And I just did that with the vise that you've seen me bend sheet metal with before. Just put it in, like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch at a time, and bent or pushed forward slightly all the way up, just to get a slight curvature on that. And what you'll see now is that that matches the shape of the fender now. So we need that in there. And then the last bend that we're going to do, of course, is this sharp 90. Well, not quite 90, but close to 90. So what we're going to do now is just do a quick measurement, find out roughly how far that bend is down, remembering that I've got extra material on both the top and the bottom. So what I want to do is just get a rough measurement. It's 3 1/2 inches down from my line. 3 1/2 inches down. So I want to come down a little more than 3 1/2, so I have a little extra material here. And I'll draw a line across here, and then we're going to do that final bend. So I'll draw that line and I'll see you at the break. Okay, we've got our line drawn down here. So we want to get that set up in here as straight as I can get it. I think that's it. Okay, so we need to bend straight over. I think that's going to be close. Yeah, that's going to be close. Let's go have a look at that. Okay, it's very close. Just want to take out some of these hammer marks right here and give myself a little. Yeah, I want just a little better curve right there, and I think that it's almost got it. Okay, let's test fit that and see how it did. All right, let's see what we got here. So we need that all the way up. Still got a little extra bend in that we need. I'm going to try and flatten that out just a little bit, just on the floor. Still just a little too much. Okay, I think it's got more of what I want here, but I've lost some of my curve here, so I've got to put that back in. Yeah, I like that. I just need a bit more curve right here. So I'm going to put that back in the brake and just try to put a little bit more on there, back in there, I should say. That's no good. Too much on that. Okay, I'm going to get a couple self-tappers. We're going to see if we can put this where we need it. Now, I want it located here properly. Okay, now we're going to mark out the areas that we need to trim. Now that we know that this new piece is in where we want it, we know we want it like that. And we know that we want it cut here and straight up. And then we know that we need extra because I'm going to use the metal that I have here. I have made extra intentionally to create this lip. And so what we'll do is mark out where we want to cut to give us that lip, which would be roughly here. So trim this, trim that, trim that. We'll trim that straight across. That will give us what we need there. And then we will put a initial bend in this piece here. Let's get that done. Okay, we've got our piece all cut out here. It's got the shape that we need along all the bottom edges, and we've left on this piece right here, which will create our fender lip. So when I line this back up with the self-tapper holes, as you can see, I've got the shape of the original fender all through here, which is what I want, and I've got my flange here that will become the lip. So before we can start to tack this on with a cut and butt, you need to be able to pull the metal behind away from the inside. And so that'll work for all of this area. But as it relates to this piece, because it's on top of the brace, I have to cut this out now. And so I'm going to get busy doing that. And then we'll put this back on with the self-tappers and begin the cut and butt process. All right. Okay, got that piece cut out, and when I put the new piece on, everything lined up and I think is going to work out really well. Both this bend here as well as the curvature here. This part will stay on until we do the cut and butt. That keeps some strength in the fender. But when I see this, I know that I had to, put a new piece onto here, as well as a section in here, which I don't mind doing. That's going to happen once this new outer skin is welded in. What I thought I would do right now, though, even though this is going to be cut out, I want to do just a quick bit of sandblast on these areas here and clean them up really nice. Shouldn't take too long, and then we'll come back. Okay, did a light media blast on these areas here that are going to likely stay, and down here, pretty good. Not perfect, but I think it'll be good. Now what we're going to do is lace this with the weld through primer, both these surfaces here as well as these surfaces here that are going to overlap. We'll get that all done, and then we'll get this thing tacked in. Okay, we've got our weld through primer down. I've got the piece self-tapped back in, and I'm just going to start to put some tacks down. Okay. Here's the old piece. Okay, we've got that new piece tacked in. Everything is nice and flush. I've got a real nice bend there. Everything seems to be really nice. A little bit of hammer and dolly work I got to do here just to tighten that up a little better and take some of those hammer dents out. Shouldn't be a problem with the dolly on this side, hammer on the other. I can take some of those dents out. But this side, including the plug welds down here, are good to go. So now I just need to go through the process of tack, 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 cool it off, tack, 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 cool it off. You know the drill. So I'll go through and do that, get this all welded up, and then I'll pick you up there. Okay, there we go, all welded up and ground down. Very happy with how this has turned out. You can see met up with the bracket really nicely here. I'll show you the inside in a second. Lips good, everything welded up nice and flat. Really nice. Very happy with how that's turned out. This part will get finished up once we finish the bend over of our lip here. We'll do some hammer dolling. I'll finish up my weld here and grind that, but I've left it for now. Let me show you the inside. Okay, there the inside. I did weld on this side as well. I put a bead here. I didn't finish this side here along the lip yet. I will later, but you can see here everything has come together nicely. And importantly, that outer piece does match the bracket, so I know I've got the bend in the right place. You can see there too. Everything fits perfectly on the outer skin to this brace, which is what I wanted. Now I can go about replacing this section of the brace, which will bring a new lip through here, and then I'll fold this over, do some hammer dolling, get that dressed up nice, do 1 or 2 plug welds, weld up this seam here, make sure that's clean, ground it all down, and rock and roll. Let's get started with that. Okay, it's time to get working on this inner brace. If you recall from earlier in the video, the inside of the brace after being sandblasted here was in pretty good shape, so I don't think we need to get that part cut out. And if I leave it, it gives me a reference and also keeps some strength in the brace and this entire piece while I'm replacing what I know to be the area of problem here. I think that's one piece, fairly simple piece with one bend, and then at least one, maybe 2 more pieces on this side to deal with this flange, this bend, and this curve. Yeah, as I said, it may be more than one piece. May end up using the shrinker stretcher on this. We'll see how that comes together, but let's do it piece by piece. And so let's cut this cut out and a new piece put in. I think that I have enough strength in this skin with the bends, what's left of the brace here and the bend here and the weld, that I don't need to worry about when I cut this out, the brace shifting on me. I think we're going to be okay with that. We'll be able to tell when we get the piece cut out and try to put it back in if it has a problem. Yeah, as I hoped. The brace hasn't moved at all. I think we're in good shape there. So, we've got good metal, good clean metal to weld to all along these three edges here. This will be new, of course. We'll leave that in for now. Now, I need to get a piece, using this as a template, I need to get a piece cut out of 18 gauge. It looks just like this. Let's get that done. Okay, we've got our original piece right here, and we've got the new piece here that I've cut out, 18 gauge. It's a little bigger than the original piece because this is going to be a cut to fit, not a cut and butt, because we can't get access to the other side to take the old piece out, and here it is anyway. So I've got some round stock here. I've got a variety of different round stock, flat stock, angle iron, that sort of thing. It's really handy to have that stuff around, different sizes, because what you'll see is that this bend here matches that radius there of that round stock just perfectly. So we're going to use it to help us get the shape that we need, because I can't get a bend that looks as nice as that using just the vise. So this is what we're going to do. So we want the bend there. Yeah, it's almost perfect. I think that might be what we need. It is a little, well, let's go do a quick test fit, and I'll come right back if it's not going to be close enough. Okay, we need a little bit more bend at the beginning here along the whole length, and a little less right here. So I'm going to just move up on the piece a little bit. Okay, as you can see there, it's just about perfect. So I'm going to go quick test fit that. Right back. Okay, we've got our piece. You can see just how nice that bend is here. You just can't get that on the vise and just trying to bend it. It has such a nice radius now. You might think I'm crazy because it's the inner brace. No one's going to see it, but I'll know it's there. You can see though that once I get this trimmed up in length here, got to be careful I don't make it too short, but it's going to go there. Once I get that trimmed, I think we're going to have just the perfect radius on that, and we'll be able to tack it in and weld her up. So now I'm just going to get the marker here and see where I've got to make my cut. There, I think if I trim that off, I'll be good. Let me do that and we'll come right back. Okay, I've got that cut off here at the edge. And you'll see now that with that right there, we've got nearly a perfect fit. It's riding a little high over this on this side, and that's because the old piece is still in here and it's keeping it from coming out. That's okay. I know I've got good fit right here, and so we can do our tack all along here this side. Before I do that, I do want to get in here and clean up the weld of the outer skin, and I want to put some primer in there, maybe even some seam sealer, just to prevent any issues in the future, even though I know I don't have any pinholes, from any moisture getting in and starting to rust the panel on the outer skin. So let me get this cleaned up with a wire brush. We'll get it primed, and then we'll work on tacking this piece in. Okay, I've got that all wire wheeled, cleaned up nice. I did end up just go ahead and cutting out this, what was left of this rotted brace here. That allowed me to come in here and just do a final test fit, and you'll see that everything is going to be just real nice there with that finish. So that's going to be a perfect piece. It's a little long on this edge, and that's okay. While this is drying, I thought we could already get a head start on creating this piece here that would go the distance. What I want to do first is just get a straight piece of 18 gauge and then do the bends. I'll show you the bends that we have to do. If we start with that, then we can work on the fitment and the trim, and if I have to shrink or stretch to get it to fit properly. And of course, we've got a bend down here that we'll have to deal with. Let me show you the bends. This is probably the best way to see the bends that we have to deal with here. And so using 18 gauge, if I can get, let's say, a 5 to 6 inch piece of steel bent in this shape here, about, let's say, 2 inches wide, because I need to allow for the distance over here. We'll do the trim there, but I need probably 2 inches wide, maybe 3 would give us lots of extra and make it easier to bend for that matter. And if I can get just matched to this bend, and I have the old piece that came off here that I can use as a bit of a template when I'm over at the vise, then with that bent, then I can, as I said earlier, deal with what I think I might have to do with shrinking and stretching to get it to fit properly. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, I've got a 3 by 6 piece of 18 gauge here, and I drew out a line across there evenly, just 1.25 inches over, which gives me lots of space on this side, which will be the piece that meets the edge of the fender lip, and this is the top piece of the brace. So if you can imagine, this is the piece we cut out, and so You can see that there. This is the bottom piece that would have met the original fender lip, and then it goes up and meets the top of the brace here. So what we're going to create right now to start with is this first bottom bend down here. All right, let's get that started. We'll go from there. Okay, so, no! This is the flange side towards the fender lip. This will go up, so that needs to match that, and it does. Maybe hard to tell there because of there. So I think that's a good, really good start on now this piece. And now we're just going to have a look to see what shrinking and stretching we have to do on the fender to get this to fit properly. Because keep in mind, this piece is not only bent this way, but it's bent this way to match the contour of the fender. And so I think I can, well, stretch or shrink depending on which side we're going to work with here to get the contour that we need there on this piece. All right, let's go have a look at the fender and see what we're working with. Okay, here we are back at the fender. This is the original piece that, although rotted, I cut out, and so it goes there like this. So you can see it comes out in this direction, has a bend on it to match, and so although I've got this piece nicely bent, this is the issue. And so this is the flange side, so this is going to go in here like this eventually. You can see that we've got to get some contour in here. And really, the best way to do that is with the shrinker stretcher, and so we're going to get that out and match this piece to this contour of the fender. We will have to put a 90-degree bend in this end here to match this. We're going to do that later. The first thing we're going to do is get this piece to match this contour. There's quite a bit of steps we're going to have to take here, but if we start with that, so we've got our first bend. Now if we get it to match, then we can start to get size and shape. We'll have to cut here, get a bend to match this radius here, and then of course we'll do a cut, something like that here, and that will match how narrow this flange is here to the width it is there. So multi-step process. Step one is done. I'm going to get the shrinker stretcher and we're going to show you how we get it to match this contour. Okay, before we head over to the shrinker stretcher, I just wanted to show you that with this gap here, if we shrink this side of the steel, i.e. bring it closer together, then it will create this arch that we're looking for here. Let me go over there and show you how it works. Okay, we've got our piece here, 18 gauge, bent on a 90-degree angle, and we want to create an arch in this piece. And so, well, you could do that with making some pie cuts and bending it manually and welding it back up. That works. A shrinker stretcher is a great way to go as well. We've got the shrinker here and the stretcher here. You could pick these up from Princess Auto, Harbor Freight, maybe $200 to $300. It's a good set of tools to have. I made up this bracket years ago to get it on the vise and hold things together. You can see that I've got them pointed in what you would say is backwards, but this allows me to get more force in the vise that I've got here. You'll see how it works. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the shrinker side on this, and it will bring this metal together and create the arch that we need. Okay, we're just going to go test fit that against the fender and see if that's getting the arch that we need. Okay, we've got our piece. You can see the shrink marks on the piece there that brings the metal together to create that bend. And you can see if I didn't have the weld sticking out there, how much contour we have on that piece now. And so it fits perfectly. I'm very happy with that. So we have our 90 here, and we have this shape here. And so now we have to start getting closer. And the next step, I think, will be to get this flange cut to close to the right size. Not perfect, but close enough that I can start to fit it in here. We're going to assume that this is the starting point. We've got lots of extra material down here because we're going to need to make a cut, a pie cut, and we will do a bend here to get what looks like to be a 45-degree or so angle on this piece to come up and meet here. One step at a time. Let's get this piece cut out like that. Again, not exactly to fit. We're going to make it a little bigger, but it will allow me to get the piece in here once we have this cut off here. That's the next step. Okay, we've got an initial cut on this flange here. Now what we have to do is get this bend figured out. So I know that, let's see if I can just get my pen here. I know that the distance between here and the bend is 3/4 of an inch. So what I want to do is measure down 3/4 of an inch from the top edge here, and I want to put a cut here. Well, I'll measure 3/4 of an inch here. I'll put a cut down here, which will allow me to bend this over, bend this out, bend this over, and allow me to get this to fit snug in here. And then I can bend this back, do a cut and butt, and get that welded back up, and that will give me this side of the bended piece here. So I'm going to get that done, and I'll cut it and bend it and show you how it fits in. Okay, I've got this piece cut through 3/4 of an inch down. I just put a light bend on that with just a simple pair of pliers because you can't get this in the vise anymore to bend it. And we're getting close, so this is roughly how it will sit in here. If I can't get this piece down all the way yet because I have to cut that. But you can see here that this isn't going to work. So I've got to make an angled cut, just like the angled bend, so that it will match up with this properly and give me the fit that I need. So I'm going to make that cut, and we'll come back. Okay, I've got that cut and bent, and now when I get this in here, like that, I've got a little extra here, which is what I wanted, so that this bend will come up and meet with this bend. In order to get any further now, I've got to make this cut so I can get this piece laying down properly, and then I can finish up both here and down there and the flange here. So I'm just going to mark that quick. We'll get it cut. Come right back. Okay, now you can see how things are coming together here. I've got this angle good here. I've got the bend matching the lip, and I've got this bend working here. So what we'll do next is we will trim this to fit the flange. So we need to cut here. And what we'll do is we'll walk that out. Like that. We'll draw a straight line there and make that piece. Then once that's cut to shape and we're happy, then we're going to deal with this corner right here. Bend it back up, cut and butt, weld it, grind it. And then the only thing that'll be left is this bend over to meet up with this piece. Okay, one step at a time here. Okay, now we've got this cut to match, and so that will have a nice flow. That will bend over. We'll be happy with that. Now we want to get this piece fixed up. So we're just going to take this piece out. We're going to bend this back up, line it up so that we've got, let's see here, so that, in fact, I can mark that now. So bend this back. In fact, let me just do that right now. So we need to make a cut across there, a cut through there so we can butt this up. We'll put a tack in and we'll check our fitment. Okay, so now you can see we've got this piece all welded up solid now. I'll show you in a second how it's all ground down on the outside. A little bit of die grinder work to do in the middle there once we get welded in, but not quite yet. And everything lines up nicely here. The thing I'm noticing right now is that this piece here needs to have a gradual lay down over here. So I need to just bend that back a little bit. No bend here. All the bend needs to happen through this area here. So I'm just going to mark that. I need like almost a 1/4 inch of bend from kind of like kind of like that. Just need to layer down a little bit. And you can see here welding from the outside and then just grinding it down. I've got a nice solid piece here. So once this is ready, of course we'll do weld through primer, and that's going to be our piece. Definitely a complex piece. We're not done yet. Let's get this laid down and then we'll move to the next step. Okay, I've got this piece fitting about as good as I can right now. It's going to need more of a bend this way down here, even more than I put in there now, but I want to wait on that, and I think it's time now to get this all welded in. So I'm going to do a bit more weld through primer on here and weld through primer on the back of this so it's ready to go, and we'll start tacking things together. Okay, I've got a couple tacks just started here. You can see I've got quite a bit of a gap here, more than I would have liked, but that's just the way things worked out in order to get this the way I liked it. So got a couple tacks in. I want to get a tack right here because I've got it flush here. Okay, I like how that's all coming together. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to take my time and get this all welded up and ground off. And then we'll come back where we'll need to trim this piece so that we can do our final bend over this way and meet up with this. I'll catch you in a few. Okay, got this all welded in and ground down, at least initially. And now we've got our piece here. That's got the weld through primer and on the inside too, as you know. So I think we're ready now to mate this piece up here, put a tack here, and then start to bend this over so we can get the bend and the curve that we need over here. I think the way that we're going to do this, because this is a nice sharp bend, is that we'll just bend it over to touch. We'll do a little bit of a cut and butt here and hammer and dolly, and then we're just going to fill that with weld in there. And then that will give us what we need to grind down. Once that's in place, then we can finish off with this flange, and with the exception of any last minute or final grinding, this section is done. So let's get this tacked in. Okay, we've got that welded up. Still some touch up to do, I think, but we got to get this ground down. We've got plenty of weld penetration inside here, so I can weld this flat this way, weld it flat that way, and then round this off, and I think we'll get the shape that we need with plenty of material in there. Once that's all done, we'll work on bending this lip over and finish off this edge. You can see we've got nice rounded bend there, and the lip is the right size. It matches there. So let's check our template now and just see how we did on matching up. So we've got our line here to match up to, and we want to be flush over here. It's very close. I would say we have a little extra material right here, which is better than not having enough, I would say. So we might need to ground that a little bit off, but we're not going to do that now. What we will do is get this on the car. After we finish up welding here, we'll get this on the car, and we'll just make sure that this curve matches the door perfectly. It looks to me like it's awesome, like it's perfect. So I think that's it for now. Now we can go back, we'll flip it back over, and we'll finish up our welding there. We'll come back and weld this up in a moment. Okay, all welded up and ground down. Happy with how that's turned out, really happy. I think that's going to be great. Also went ahead and filled in the 2 holes for the Valiant emblem, because I don't plan to put those back on. We'll have the Duster sticker, of course, but not the Valiant emblem. Let's take a look at the backside. There we go, all finished up and ground down. Again, very happy with how that's turned out. It's got the strength, it's got the look. Um, yeah, very happy. We'll likely come in here and do a bead on the back of that weld there just to ensure that it's got the strength, but also absolutely no chance of rust penetrating that weld seam there. Otherwise, though, this fender is done and it's ready for a test fit. So that's where I'll pick you up next. Okay, we've got the fender on, just set on there for now. But everything lines up great. It's got the shape that it needs. Very happy with the gapping that comes down. Everything lines up great. Very happy. So I'll just take that fender off. I'll put some primer on all of the exposed metal where I've done the work, and then we'll put this back on. I won't fully fasten it down because we have to finish up the repair on the inner splash shield. That will come, and then we'll be able to put this fender on and move on to the next piece. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We've got this driver's side fender all complete. Rust is gone. It's ready for a media blast, epoxy prime, light filler work, and going to be really happy with how this fender fits on the car. I hope you got something out of that. If you have any comments, suggestions on things I could have done differently, throw it down in the comments. If you liked the video, throw a like in there, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next Friday.